Hey guys, I'm Jax and this is my spoiler review for Season 2, Episode 5 of... I feel like I forget how much I love the show every time I'm not watching the show and then when the show is on and I'm watching it, I'm like, man, I love this show. I feel like it kind of does everything I want from a superhero story. I absolutely love how in this show, they really push the limits of superheroes and powers and other worlds and aliens in so many different, varied, creative ways. I could go on and on about all the different characters and all those things, but in particularly this episode, really highlighting the difference between Viltrumites and how long they live compared to humans, then down compared to the bug species that they start the episode on, where, you know, the blue bug people, and just how the blue bug people compared to humans barely live at all, and then that's the contrast for how Viltrumites and how Nolan views Earth and humans, and I just thought that was a really interesting kind of thought-provoking way to kind of contrast, compare, juxtaposition and all those filmy words or whatever. And it just really made me think like, wow, like he lives for so very long. Like this woman is already so old. This bug lady is already so old. She's like, take the baby. I'm not even going to hear him say his first word. Like, it's just, I don't know. I really like the stuff in this show where I find it so thought-provoking and it just pushes the boundaries of how limitless and crazy and expansive this world can be. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Love everything about the show pretty much. But with this impossibly limitless potential and how it always pushes the boundaries, we do come into a little wrinkle in that, which I find to be fascinating and thought-provoking and interesting, but also incredibly frustrating just with how it plays with my emotions. And that is that this show, just like Game of Thrones, will pull a big old Game of Thrones and just kill main characters. Just brutally, horrifically kill them. But it will often continuously just bring them back again and again and again and again. I feel like maybe Alan has just kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit just because we will like get a full Alan epi and then halfway through it they're just like, he's dead. Then at the end of the episode they're like, no, he's in a back-to-tank situation or whatever and he's alive. But then at the end of the episode they unplug the back-to-tank situation and he's dead. No, he unplugged it to bring him back to life. And I'm like, okay. It's good writing in terms of it's playing with my emotions. And I'm like, oh, up and down, up and down. But I just feel like, and I had the same issue when they brought in the multiverse at the start of the season, where I'm like, I just feel like at a certain point, I'm going to find it a little bit frustrating and it's going to kind of make me not accept when people die. Like, because it's so like horrifying when you forget, because this episode's so much fun. So much fun. And it's funny and crazy and interesting and it's so great to be back in this world. Then when the secret snake society of snakes or whatever they're called come in and it's like, oh wait, no, they're gonna win and they start killing the characters. I'll get to those death strokes. They are very clever. They do this thing and I'm like horrified and shocked and like you're just in this state of like horror and awe and terror. And then like the post-credit scenes happen and you're like, oh, that guy who I had that exact same emotion for when I was scared and terrified. I was like, oh no, horror, the death, and he's fine. In fact, he's better than ever. And I'm like, okay, well, to put that right at the end after just killing two people and like almost and like cutting, like cliffhangering, will the wacky guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine live? Will the funny guy live? And I'm like, yeah, well, he definitely will. Because even if he's not like dead, they'll get a drop of his blood and put it in a test tube and he'll be alive or something. Magic, supernatural, and I don't know, it's just, it's so funny because I love so much of this stuff. This show is so limitless and I find it so interesting so many different ways. Like I'm loving the Donald plot. I don't mind the mortal coming back every single time or whatever. I guess that's his name. That's his whole thing. So many times I love it, but I just feel like I'm like in the back of my mind, I'm a little afraid that at a certain point I'm going to get real like sick of being like, I'm just not going to not trust a big emotional action scene when someone dies. I'll be like, wow. But they'll be fine, right? And then when they're just not fine, I'll be like, oh, I guess they were dead. But it's not going to like trick or like, it's not going to get me emotionally in the moment because I'm going to be just so skeptical or I'm like, wow, maybe they're dead, but they're probably not, right? I don't know. Like I love this show. I just think like this show more so than any other because it's just so limitless and the power and the technology and the magic and all these things are so just limitless. And I love that about it. But because of that, I kind of feel like everyone is, funnily enough, when the Serpent Secret Society of Snakes or whatever they're called, they rock up and they're like, we're doing two things at once. And I'm like, oh, it really kicks off when like female Ant-Man like tries to bust out of the guy, doing that classic thing where a little guy goes into a big guy and then busts out. Now they're big, and she tries to, but then he just like actually digests her, which is just, talk about just taking ideas that we've seen so many times and just really pushing them to the extreme. Very interesting and horrifying ways. Absolutely love it. And also just before that, when Duplicate Girl, she's like, keeps getting killed and killed and killed, and it feels like they were really pushing at this episode with that big serpent snake society man or whatever, like the Hulk snake one, and he's like smashing and ripping it. Every time he just threw one, they would explode and rip apart. And I just kept thinking, how many times can she do this? Can she just duplicate forever? And what happens when you kill the first one? Like, if she had duplicated herself into 3 different ones, but you just picked the original and killed that, will the duplicates all die at the same time? And I just had all these questions, and I'm like, is she immortal? Is she, one might say... And like, as I had that thought, where I'm like, man, they are killing a lot of her. And I just kept thinking about like, how powerful she is. Where were the limits of these abilities and powers? Then he grabs the last 2 and smashes them together, bloody, you know the show, and she dies. Maybe, probably, I mean, who's to say? But it was like, it was played like she was properly dead. You know how like in a couple of episodes ago, Alan was played to be dead, and then he wasn't, he was alive. But then they took the thing off the thing and he died again. Until this episode where he wasn't dead. I love this show. To be clear, I absolutely love this show. It's just funny how they just keep going, just playing with my emotions. One last thing on Duplicate Girl. I feel like if I was Duplicate Girl, or let's say Duplicate Man with a beard, schmucky, nothing duplicate person boy, I would never like be there. Like if I had the one on my chest and I kept duplicating, I'd never be in the room. Like what's the limits of where you can duplicate? Like it has to come out of you, I suppose? Would you not like stand in like a corner or like hide in like a separate secret room? Would you not find some kind of situation in which you were kind of out of the action, essentially? Whether you be invisible in a big box of protective metal or something, and you just keep duplicating and like never really be there? Or is that not how the powers work? Do you have to like be right there in the action? Or like, because at times she duplicates lots of herself, where it's like, she's not limited to 2 or 3. So like, can you not duplicate yourself to a point where you've duplicated like 10,000 of them and you just send them out and like they'd never get through 10,000 of them? Like create an army of duplicate girls. I just feel like she's being very risky with like her life, as if they're not just going to grab the original and crush your skull, which they do in this episode, I suppose. So yeah, I'm just saying she had her powers for a while and she probably should have figured out how to not get smashed. But also, I just feel like, is she dead? Like, are we not just going to get a reveal where they're like, actually, I'm the original Duplicate Girl, and it like has like a 0 on her chest, and she's like, ha ha ha! I did that thing Jax said I should do. I hid in the corner. I like this show. It feels like, it makes it sound like I don't like this show. I love this show. Even when Alan came back again, I'm like, that is interesting. Like, you've got the Transformers guy, Peter Cullen, and they tricked me, because I'm like, he's got a voice of a guy who's like, I am the hero. But twist, he wasn't the hero. He was the bad guy. But double twist, he's actually a good guy. He's a double... It's a double bluff, or a triple bluff, or not, or it's nothing, because we always thought he was a good guy. But no, it's something. It's definitely something. But he does a classic old rips the beard off, and the guy's like, oh my god, you're a Viltrumite. Do they not have beards? Like, I didn't feel like I got that. Like, do Viltrumites all look the same? I don't know. I feel like I was missing something where he like removed the beard and he's like, you're a thing. You're the thing. And it turns out he's the first original Viltrumite traitor, or what's the word? Rogue. He's the first rogue Viltrumite, and so he wants to team up with him and Invincible and I guess punch all the other Viltrumites in the face and kill them, which is fun. It's fun and exciting. So despite me being like, wow, they really do like to bring people back from the dead, I like this wrinkle in the story. Also, on characters coming back to life, but it being very interesting and it just being that kind of, there's so many varied ways that this story can go, is Donald. Donald finds out he's essentially just a cyborg man, essentially a robot with his brain in it, and that's just really interesting and thought-provoking, and it's just like, that's what his whole story is going to be about, and him trying to deal with this situation. And I love it. It's super interesting and cool. So it's funny how it's like some characters, when he exploded and died, I wasn't like, oh, Donald's back? Okay. I was like, oh my god, what is he? A clone? An alien? A shapeshifter? A cyborg? Turns out he's a cyborg, and I really, really like that. I am surprised we found out so early, because I feel like last episode, it's been like months since I saw it whenever it came out, he like cut himself and we saw blood, and I was like, oh, he's not a robot, he's a real boy, some kind of Pinocchio situation, but not wood, so I suppose nothing like a Pinocchio situation. He's going to be some kind of clone. No, he's a robot, he's a cyborg man. So I guess they showed the blood to trick us. Classic. Love this show. But yeah, so it's just funny how I will absolutely be on board with Donald, and maybe they'll kill him again and recycle him into a different cyborg body and do all these crazy things. I'm so on board with so much of this crazy wild world. I just find it so fascinating and interesting. But then every now and then, like when Alan first appears, I'm not like, oh, he's back. I'm like, okay. I really feel like you're just kind of twisting my emotions where like, just having that happen straight after killing two characters and like maybe they're going to kill the guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the funny guy, the guy who says all the funny lines. I imagine he's not going to die because otherwise why would you get rid of his hand? Because it feels like that's unnecessary if you're just going to shoot him in the head at the start of next week. But I just feel like that big moment, I was like, oh, I keep forgetting this is a Game of Thrones show. Everybody dies at some point. But then it like has the Alan bit. I'm like, are they dead? Like, who knows? Who knows? Maybe like we will find out that the little female ant man just climbs out of that guy's body and she's like, he digested me, but like he didn't chew me, so like I'm actually fine. I was just in his digestive system, which would be fine. But I feel like sometimes you just want those emotional moments because they shock you so much by being so terrifying and like thought-provoking and interesting and just powerful. It's annoying when they just kind of backtrack on them so many times. I don't know. I love this show though. I really truly was just like, as soon as it started, and for like most of the episode, I'm like, I'm having so much fun in this universe. It's so cool and colorful and wild and crazy. And then it's like, oh my god, it's so intense and horrifying. I'm not saying this is an issue. I'm just saying that for a show called Invincible, it's funny how much it plays with my expectations on who and who isn't.